Hi, everyone. It's Michelle, Education Director at ASIS here. Today, I have a guest coming in to talk about our sister school, the Academy of Lymphatic Studies. He is one of their instructors who teaches with the Manual Lymph Drainage class. So, Damien Archambault is here with us. Hi, Damien. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. Good, thanks. Thanks for joining. I just wanted to get a chance to talk a little bit about what people can expect about ACOLS, the Academy of Lymphatic Studies, and um, a little bit about what like we learn in the class. And I know I've taken the class before with you as an instructor and learned a lot, and it really opened up my eyes to a lot of techniques that I could be incorporating in my massage sessions, but also made me really think that this is very different than massage. It's a body form of body work, but very different from it. So, could you talk a little bit about first what is taught in the class and what people can expect in the classroom?
Sure. Well, firstly, I would just say that it's important to realize that working with the lymphatic system, even though it's called manual lymph drainage, is not massage because we're not actually working with the musculature of the body. We are working with the lymph collectors. We are working to aim to move and help with the formation of lymph inside the lymphatic system and keep the function necessary for all the body to process on its own and remove any of that extra fluid and edema.
Okay, awesome. Do you find those still that are in the classes that a lot of massage therapists do sign up for the class, or are there other professions in the class as well?
Yes, I would say that majority of the people who take the MLD courses are massage therapists, although there are some that take some more of our advanced courses. We also do have a healthy combination of nurses, OTs, PTs, and some medical doctors as well that take the courses.
Awesome. So, why would someone sign up for this class? What are the main things that they're looking for to gain for either their clients or their patients to learn about and to help them?
So with MLD, we're really working with post-op, a little bit more of slightly compromised lymphatic system, a little bit more on the healthier side. We're really working with edema, and then that would be the easiest way to describe it, is we're working a little bit more with edema, and any edema that's post-op that potentially becomes lymphedema.
Okay.
And when someone actually has secondary or primary lymphedema and they are looking for straight lymphedema management, then that's where we need to get into more of our advanced complete decongestive therapy.
Okay. Could this help someone who's maybe having swelling from pregnancy or even from maybe someone standing on their feet all day, or do they have to have a full blown condition like edema or lymphedema?
No, this is extremely beneficial for anyone that has gone through that. If they've been traveling and they're on an airplane, as we know that with the different atmospheric pressure, we can get some slight swelling. This would be a great benefit for that.
Cool. And so the classes, I know as when I first started as a massage therapist, and I saw some continuing education classes out there that were 2, 3, 4, 5 days long, if not more. And we're talking what 7, 10 days is it with the complete class? I think it
Nine,
is 9.
9 days.
Okay,
Mhm.
9 days. So that seems very overwhelming. I think for somebody to sign up for and think like first of all it's a lot of money or it's a lot of days away from my practice. What's the, I guess for lack of a better word, the selling point, or why would I want to sign up and why would I want to take that time out of my practice, or arrange my childcare situation and dip out of my savings for this class? Why would I want to do that as opposed to just a couple of 1 day classes and kind of go from there?
Um, well, lymphedema in itself, and whether you're working with manual lymph drainage or you're doing complete decongestive therapy, um, the benefits behind it, what it really entails for a wound, from wound care, because if you're on the complete decongestive side, there's going to be wound care, there's going to be bandaging. You're
Mhm.
really working with some pretty severe pathologies as it relates to lymphedema. On kind of the MLD side, we're working a little bit more with, like I said, a healthier lymphatic system. It doesn't mean that someone didn't have some form of cancer that has caused them to develop some secondary lymphedema and maybe an upper extremity or lower extremity. And we're working to help release the extra swelling in that area. And because it's working with fluid in the body, and if we dive a little bit deeper into the lymphatic system and we understand how important it is in connection with our circulatory system, 2 to 4 liters in a 24-hour period are going to be cycled back through from our interstitial spaces in the tissues back into the cardiovascular system by way of the lymphatic system. That's a very large component, and we need that. So from there we look at maybe the the extents, like how much MLD is really needed. Post-op and they have a long-term swelling. There's a lot of medical doctors out there now that require compression garments and bandaging for months on end. But with MLD, maybe you don't need to wear it for as long, and you can spend longer time without, because we in the lymphatic world have done more extensive research and understand, really how the lymphatic system works and what we're supposed to really do with the lymphatic system based on the watersheds in the body, and where lymph is supposed to drain to specifically.
Okay.
Component as it links in as well to the immune system. So a healthier lymphatic system is going to help with a healthier immune system function.
Awesome. So even if someone's not experiencing any kind of issues per se, they probably could enhance their immune system with just a healthy lymphatic system working.
Oh, yes, for sure. Just as, one massage a month could be considered maintenance, for health. You could also get just a full body MLD session, once a month. And for maintenance.
And what I really liked about the class too is that, yes, you could do a full session, but you can also incorporate parts of it in different parts of the body or within your Swedish massage-based massage techniques and things like that. So I really liked adding it as a tool to what I already do. So that was really fantastic to even just pick up a couple of the techniques, which also I'd like to talk about a little bit. Basically 5 techniques, right? That's what you're learning in the class. And so it's simple yet pretty powerful. Can you talk a little bit about this style of lymphatic? Because I know before I took this class, people were like, "Oh, is it this kind where you're like doing this like things, or you're just kind of like gliding, like pushing things up like that?" There's all these different ways that people are interpreting it. And when I got to the class, I'm like, "Yeah, we didn't do any of that. We did this," and it's interesting that there's different approaches. So can you speak to what ACOLS uses?
Sure. So our approach is the traditional Vader technique. And it was developed to impact the lymphatic system in a specific way. So each technique that's used, from stationary circles to rotaries, all depend on what particular area of the body you're working on, how much surface area that you're going to try and affect at one time. And if we use the stationary circles as an example, they're performed in a specific way in order to ensure that we're not backflowing fluid while we're moving it in the direction we want it to go. But each technique is designed to open up the lymph collectors to allow formation of lymph, and then to direct the flow and work with what's called lymph angiomotoricity, because each collector is an angion in the lymphatic system, and they each connect with the autonomic nervous system, specifically more the sympathetic nerve part of the nervous system. And they can contract on about 10 to 12 beats a minute, but with our manual techniques, we work to try and increase the reserve and get it up to about 60 beats a minute, which is still pretty slow. So the application of the technique is extremely slow as well, about 1 second or slower with each approach, in order to not tax the lymphatic system, put it into a spasm. So each technique is designed specifically to overall enhance the movement.
Yeah, I was so blown away by the trance, for lack of a better word, almost, that just being on the table with the rhythm that it's applied. And from standing on the outside, if you're just looking at, I only know Swedish type based massage, and you're like, this looks very, very different, but to be very open-minded about it. And that was for me. I'm talking from my own personal experience. Almost 20 years in the field, I never took a specific lymph class because of what I've seen pieces of. I was like, I don't really know that's for me because I'm used to this style. And I was just blown away about how I felt after the first couple of days, and just how much more deeply I slept, and just feeling overwhelmingly relaxed and just really calm. And that was a really great effect for me, for not having really any lymph issues. That was a great side effect. Do you get that feedback from people in your classes?
Yes, all the time. Yeah, there's a huge benefit to it. I mean, if we look at massage, as you know, one massage is about, the equivalent of 6 hours of sleep on the body. The entrainment that happens between you and the patient you're working with lymph, you're going to get that relaxation effect as well.
Mhm.
Because even though we're trying to stimulate the sympathetic aspect of the nervous system, we also are getting a parasympathetic response to the body as well,
Mhm.
because of the types of touch that's happening to the body. Personally, myself, specializing in more, therapeutic massage approach, I found that using lymph with my therapeutic massages even enhance that, because there are
Mhm.
times when I can't effectively do the work that I need to do, deeper into the underlying layers, until I've worked with the swelling, or I've worked to move
Mhm.
fluid out of that area. And so I'll approach it first from a lighter standpoint with MLD, and then when they've gotten to a point where they've healed a little bit more, then I can go in there and do the deeper work on the structural integrative work that I do. So
Right. Yeah, I noticed that too. I worked with someone the other day who's, really, really, I don't know, just sensitivity in her legs, but pain in her legs. And once I did some leg work on it with some lymph MLD techniques, then I was able to apply just a regular pressure from the Swedish techniques that we were starting, and then being able to work more deeply in that area. So that was really great. Although most people I know, myself included, have to comment about how much they're peeing later, seems to be a side effect as well.
Mhm.
Everything just kind of moving through a little bit. So,
Well, yes, I mean diuretics in
yeah.
general, if you drink coffee, other forms of diuretics, right? They help to, eliminate water inside of the body, and in essence, will
Mhm.
also eliminate water in the interstitial spaces. But maybe not always the best way to do it. MLD is going to really help to kind of pick up any of those other substances. But the other part of the lymphatic system is that it helps to drain substances that cannot be reabsorbed by, the cardiovascular system, right? They can't be picked
Mhm.
back up by the bloodstream.
Mhm.
Larger proteins, long chain fatty acids, cell
Mhm.
fragments, right? And then water. Majority of it is water, but there's going to be all those other components that can't make their way back in. If we didn't
Right.
have our lymphatic system functioning, then we just continue to swell. And lymphedema is water enriched with proteins, right? It's
Mhm.
not just water. So when your lymphatic system is compromised, then that's usually where you get edema, and then long-term edema could turn into lymphedema.
Mhm. Yeah. And then you mentioned earlier with complications from surgery, or even just no real complications, but just the side effect of surgery. There is some recommendation to work on the lymphatics. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. We have our regional lymph nodes. The majority of the lymph nodes we're going to find in our neck, in the cervical area. We're going to find them in the axillary area, in the armpits, and in the inguinal area,
Mhm.
down the legs, and the femoral triangle. And we have watersheds. So, our main watershed, the sagittal watershed, dividing the body from, left to right. Then we're going to have our upper horizontal watershed that's going to come across the collarbone here, and a lower horizontal watershed that's right around the umbilicus area. And those watersheds help to, if we're talking about the core of the body, the torso, right? We have quadrants. So we have our lower quadrants below the lower horizontal watershed. We have our upper quadrants above that, in between the two watersheds. And the direction that the lymphatic collectors work, they all kind of originate at the watersheds and then move toward their regional lymph nodes. So
Mhm.
if you're working in the upper left quadrant, you're draining towards the left axillary area. In more advanced techniques, if something was to happen, we could use, mastectomy from breast cancer as an example, and your nodes are removed on the left side. Maybe we need to reroute that lymph over to the right side to help it drain. But those would
Mhm.
require advanced techniques with complete decongestive therapy, because we have to cross watersheds. We have to really, learn more of what we really need to do with that.
Mhm.
But if there are still some lymph nodes in that area, and we understand the anatomy, and we know what we're doing, because they didn't get removal of lymph nodes, they still have their lymph nodes intact, then we're working to, flush that regional area, or that tributary, it's called as well, focusing on
Mhm.
that quadrant towards those, axillary lymph nodes in order for them to be picked back up. And then, of course, you're looking at the breakdown of the lymphatic system. On the right side of our body only drains about the size of a soda can, about 300 milliliters in a 24-hour period. The
Mhm.
majority of our body, the two lower extremities, the left arm, the left, upper quadrants and everything in the left side of the head, that all drains to the left side. So about 2 to 4 liters in a 24-hour period move through our left versus the right. Um,
Mhm.
and so, like I said, knowing the anatomy is probably the most important thing. So the courses are broken down in a great way for everyone to learn, but we do spend a lot of time like cracking down on the anatomy, because techniques are pretty easy to pick up eventually
Yeah.
with time, but the anatomy is the important part. You have to understand what's really happening with the anatomy.
Yeah, I found that well, I laugh at my, my rotaries. They're terrible. I'm like, can we just do scooping some more? I just like that a lot better. But yeah, a lot having to think about what direction things are going in, and having to, to do the perpendicular movement first and then the directional movement. And that's why I really enjoyed that time that I had in the classes to process that, because by day two-ish, three, I started to really pick up, okay, now I'm really getting it, by not instinctively because I was learning it, but more, it started to make more sense and become clearer that, okay, once I follow this, then really the techniques are just the techniques wherever you're going to go on the body, as long as you know which direction you're going to go in. Um, Techniques aren't that challenging to do in that direction. So it's pretty
Right.
cool.
Yeah. I always get a lot of questions about, am I performing the technique in the right direction? And,
Mhm.
depending on the technique that you're doing, in order to get, lymph formation to work, we have to open up the collectors. And we do that by, perpendicular stretch basically to the collector and pulling on the angering filaments to allow lymph to make, the interstitial fluid to make its way in and become lymph. That direction doesn't really matter. It's the directional that matters. So as
Mhm.
long as you know the direction of the collectors and where the regional lymph nodes that you're effectively
Mhm.
working towards, that's the important part. And
Yeah.
so you can almost always figure out where you need to move it, as long as you know where that direction is.
Right. Yeah, and I love the additional help that we get in terms of the posters that are available. I know you have one of yours behind you as well, and there's another one available with the whole body system and kind of getting um,
Yes, and
everything
then we have our
laid out.
trusty
Yeah.
book there. I show
Yes.
it.
To
you
kind of
know
help with that as well. Yes.
exactly.
Love it. Awesome. What advice would you have to either um, maybe students in the field who might be thinking about incorporating this either right after they graduate, or maybe even while they're in school, or anyone kind of on the fence about, I don't know if I want to take this investment in learning this course? What would be some of your tips or advice for them?
Well, my big advice would be that it's always important to learn as many modalities as you possibly can to effectively make you a better therapist. Like I said before, myself, I perform more deep work on a regular basis, but I enjoy the light work because we need that balance continuously
Mhm.
in our lives and in our practices. So I would say that most injury-based work, rehabilitative style massages, we're going to see a lot of edema, and other forms of swelling. So it's extremely important to learn how to work with the lymphatic system, so we can help, effectively get some good change. Um,
Mhm.
so I would say, whatever you're called to, even if you don't find yourself actively working with lymph on a regular basis, knowing it, understanding it, and the application of that technique is extremely beneficial to any form of massage that you're doing, especially, well, if you're in the spa world and you want to work with, wraps and other forms of body treatments. MLD is a
Mhm.
great way to work with, anyone that might be experiencing, certain types of spa treatments, mud wraps, things like that, that they need to work with as well. So yeah, there are some days, there is, time involved. There is some financial, parts that are involved as well. But in the end, you'll have a technique that you can keep with you forever. That's going to, show you more about the body than you ever really
Mhm.
understood
Mhm.
before, especially in the lymphatic world. And, you know, depending on where you live, depending on who you're working with post-op, um, you know, like I said, the lymphedema is everywhere, and it's a portable tool, right? You can use it wherever you want. As the applications of manual lymph drainage. But I guess the big part really that I would say is, more and more now in the United States, we're seeing it really involved in medical care. It's more common in other countries than it is in the United States, but now we're seeing
Mhm.
a real enhancement over the last several years of it getting into the medical world. And so for anyone who's really interested in working that way, or having a part of a career, if you're already part of the medical world, this is where that benefit's really going to help as well. And then effectively, you want to make sure that you're taking a reputable course because, if you don't perform the technique correctly, if you don't move the fluid, correctly the way where you need it to go, you can't hurt someone. And
Yeah.
so, one of our first, important rules is as body workers is we don't do any harm. So we want to make sure that we really understand what we're doing. And there's a lot of other professionals out there that think that they know, tell you how to perform it because they themselves have never really studied it. They don't know what they're really doing. And
Mhm.
so they'll say, go ahead and drain the fluid, towards the wound. Well, you don't want to do that. Right. And we can't because as massage therapists, especially, right, we aren't allowed to do that. So we have to understand exactly the anatomy, what we're doing, and what's going to be the
Mhm.
best benefit to the body and to the patient that we're working on, as well as protecting ourselves. So, very important to take a reputable course.
Yeah, awesome. And speaking of reputable courses, that's our website, well, our sister school website, Academy of Lymphatic Studies, where you can find all of the upcoming courses, including where Damien's where are you going off to next? What's your next Kentucky?
Kentucky, yes.
Kentucky, yep. And we here in Mesa, our Mesa campus, ASIS, well, we actually just had to move it to a hotel because we've reached our capacity for in our building here. But don't worry, we got space now in the hotel. In November 13th through 17th in Mesa, we're going to be having the 5-day MLD course here with our instructor Morgan Strong, who's a lot of fun to have in class. Really fun to learn from. So I might be helping out in that class. Still have to decide about that one too. But we're really looking forward to having a really great class and hoping to add more to all of our other campuses in Arizona. And we're really, from what I hear, pumping up the schedule for 2022 around the country as well. So that's going to be really great. So we can find Damien at a state near you too as well. So that's really exciting. So check out the website, and also once you get I think there's also a mailing list, if I'm not mistaken, that you probably can get information on that well as well too. So or let us know if you want to know as well for ASIS, and we can help out to keep you posted when things are coming again to Arizona and other states nearby. So I wanted to thank you, Damien, so much for helping out today and chatting a little bit about ACOLS and the lymph classes. And I hope people found it informative and want to take the class now because I know it was really beneficial for me, and I think for everyone else that has taken it. So, any final words?
No, I hope to see anyone in a class.
All right, thanks, Damien.
Thanks.